All right. Welcome to this new episode of the Political Analysis Program. This is Rodin Mugima, the Afro Pessimist. Today we look at a very important and timely issue: why Africa must unite. We are going to see 10 reasons, or look at 10 reasons as to why Africa must unite. Just imagine if Africa was united. The 55 states or countries, smaller nations, which were shared in the Bahrain conference. But I still have hope that one day it will happen as it was proposed by the founding fathers. Kwame Nkrumah, or Dr. Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah, the first president of the Republic of Ghana, which was normally known as Gold Coast, once said, "Africa must unite or perish. Without genuine African unity, our continent will remain at the mercy of imperialist domination and exploitation." Anyway, let's look at the reasons as to why Africa must unite. The 10 simple yet profound reasons why Africa must unite under a socialist economic system. Let's talk about Africa's wealth as the first point. Africa is extremely wealthy. In fact, it is the wealthiest land mass of the face of the earth. This wealth can be found in its abundant mineral resources and in its agricultural potential. Africa's mineral wealth includes a wide variety and huge volume of resources that are critical to the technical and industrial, of course, and to the industrial development of humanity. Take an example. We have gold, we have platinum, there is diamond in Africa, we have manganese, cobalt, there is chromite, we have coltan, which sometimes also called corombat tankerite, there is coal, there is radium, we have iron ores, chromium, there is copper, lead, zinc, tin, titanium, we have antinomon, we have tantalum, we have germanium, there is lithium, phosphate, bauxite, we have uranium, there is petroleum and natural gas, and so many other mineral resources. Similar figures could be provided regarding Africa's agricultural potential, which remains largely untapped. Yes, it remains largely untapped. Although there are an estimated 632 million hectares of arable land in Africa, only 179 million hectares are actually cultivated. That is to say, less than 30% of its arable land. As with Africa's mineral resources, this arable land is unevenly distributed. In fact, in just 4 countries, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Nigeria, and the 2 Sudanese, I mean the South Sudan and Sudan, Khartoum, where nearly 40% of this uncultivated land is located. There is enough agricultural rich land to feed Africa's 1 billion population several times over. However, because this wealth is unevenly distributed, showing no relationship to the artificial imperialist imposed visions of the continent, this wealth can only benefit the masses of African people when it is shared on a continent-wide basis. Let's look at pooling investment resources. To invest in a large-scale production in both industry and agriculture, a large amount of investment resources is needed. When Africa unites, it will be able to pool its investment resources to ensure that it will have enough money to invest in a large-scale production of industrial and agricultural goods and services. Once Africa unites, it will no longer have to go begging the World Bank the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and various donor nations of the world for loans that are tied to very high interest rates and exploitative conditions designed to keep Africa impoverished and dependent. Africa's total foreign reserves held by African central banks is $500 billion. Is $500 billion, around 510 United States billion dollars. Separately, the various individual states in Africa, individual states in Africa will never be able to raise the funds required to invest heavily in any aspect of production, especially in the production of heavy equipment designed to build the cars, designed to build the trucks, tractors, roads, bridges, trains, ships, of course airplanes, and so many other basic items required of the 21st century. Let each African country invest at least 5% of its foreign reserves into a giant African infrastructure bound. In short, genuine African unity, where the wealth and resources of this great continent are massed in the great bank of Africa and shared amongst its people, is the only alternative for Africa to avoid begging for loans that are designed to keep Africa poor and in perpetual debt. Let's talk about optimal market size. Only a united Africa with more than 1 billion people can provide the requisite market size to stimulate large-scale production. In fact, according to African Union figures, the actual purchasing power of the continent of Africa is around 1 trillion, around 1.515 trillion United States dollars, which would place it, if it were one nation, as the 11th highest purchasing power country in the world. However, as it stands, a weak and divided Africa has been forced to turn its purchasing power, that is to say, its various balkanized markets, over the United States and various other industrialized nations of the world. These nations, in turn, use this so-called free market opportunity to flood Africa's markets with goods, many of which are of very dubious. They are of very dubious quality, produced by their large-scale factories, plants, and farms. These factories, plants, and farms, because of the huge size of their markets, benefit from what economists call economies of scale, and are therefore able to produce their goods at a cheaper cost per unit. Additionally, these same companies often benefit from their government's efforts to protect them from international competition in the form of government subsidies. As it stands, the producers and potential producers of Africa have little or no incentive to expand production when faced with the tiny markets of their individual so-called nation states. As a result, workers in other lands are producing everything from underwear to cellular telephones, from handkerchiefs to refrigerators, from matches to motorcycles, from ice to computers, from chicken to automobiles, and exporting them all to Africa. Of course, I can't fail to mention the fact of protectionism. Only a united Africa will be able to protect its market. China protects its industries by keeping its currency, the renminbi, relatively low, thus ensuring its exports will remain attractive on the global market. The United States protects millions of dollars of subsidies for its farmers, especially its rice, cotton, and maize growers, in order to protect their goods against local competition in countries around the world. The European Union does much the same. with European poultry farmers being one of their largest beneficiaries, and with the declining African poultry farmers being the hardest hit. Once united, however, Africa will have the power to use tariffs, talk about duties, quotas, salary increments, propaganda, and of course subsidies. Now let's talk about bargaining power as another factor. The Balkanized states of Africa always at a disadvantage when separately bargaining with the stronger industrial nations of Europe, Asia, and North America. This is especially the case when trying to quote foreign direct investments, the so-called FDIs. For while there will always be occasions when Africa could benefit from FDI, the terms of the agreement will never be in our favor if we try to bargain with the stronger industrialized nations under our current Balkanized status. That one should be noted. We always lose. However, once Africa is united, it will be in the best position to set the terms of agreement between it and any potential foreign investor. That is simple. Now, just imagine if we have a common currency. One of the best ways to integrate Africa's economy, enhance the inter-African trade, and gain control in setting the prices of African exports is through the use of common currency. A common African currency will eliminate the transaction costs customers pay when buying a different currency other than their own, especially for those involved in inter-African trade. Secondly, the prices of goods and services will be more transparent and thus more comparable when there is a common unit of account. Thirdly, the African common currency will become an international currency of higher value that billions of people inside and outside of Africa will have to acquire in order to purchase anything made and sold everywhere in Africa. Really, why don't you people understand? The African heads of states, please think about this matter. There is Continental Planning. Let us also try to elaborate more about it. Only United Africa can plan continentally. Indeed, the major problems facing Africa do not affect the various states separately, nor can they be solved separately. For example, global warming is having a devastating impact on our major river basins in Africa, including River Nile, there is Congo River, Zambezi, Niger, and Orange River basins. They are slowly and in some cases swiftly drying up. But how do we solve this problem when each of these major river basins interacts with several African microstates in all of the 5 regions of Africa? Can or should any one African country solve this problem when ultimately the entire continent is being affected? In fact, all of the major challenges facing Africa require continent-wide solutions based on continent-wide scientific planning. For instance, there is absolutely no reason for the people of Africa to be going hungry anywhere on the continent due to the drought. Really? With these huge water bodies located throughout the continent? However, of course, with less than 5% of African land being irrigated, is there any wonder that our rain-dependent agriculture systems throughout the continent are unable to feed all of its people? Independent of the critical need to irrigate the continent, which perforce is a continent-wide task, both financially and planning-wise, the agricultural potential of our great continent can only be realized when we plan. Continentally, to make this happen, after all, just one country, the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, has the agricultural potential to feed the whole of Africa. How then are our people starving when just one of Africa's 54 microstates is capable of feeding the entire continent? Really? Let's talk about providing landlocked countries access to the sea. A united Africa will allow nearly 20 African countries to acquire the benefits of having immediate access to the sea. With slightly more than 70% of the Earth's surface covered by the ocean, the benefits of having immediate access to marine life are tremendous. They include minimum food, medicine, of course, the raw materials, mineral resources, tourism, and the protection of geopolitical strategic interests. Of course, I can't forget to mention this issue of resolving international conflicts and disputes, military defense. The Balkanization of Africa at the infamous Berlin Conference of 1884 to 1885 not only created small, economically non-viable dependencies, it also endangered and or exacerbated ethnic and religious hostilities throughout the continent. This long-standing strategy of divide and rule was used to perfection throughout Africa, which now has more borders than any other continent on Earth. It has about 166 borders. The recipe was simple: fossilize Africa's various ethnic groups, many of whom were historical rivals, then force them under the same national roof. Independence then would be fraught with so many ethnic hostility that achieving national integration, political stability, and economic development will be, of course, practically impossible. As a result, we have an entire continent replete with intrastate and interstate conflicts, many of which over the years have blossomed into full-scale civil wars. They have blossomed into civil-scale wars. Really, Africa. However, only a unified African government, but traced with the full-scale might of all African military high command, will be able to resolve these conflicts and end these wars. The United Nations, NATO, blah blah blah, European Union, United States of America, or any other entity outside of Africa can never and will never solve our problems. None of them have the interest, they have no will, means, or mandate to do so. Instead, if left in their hands, they will only make matters worse in order to make Africa more malleable for continued imperialist domination. Lastly, asserting the African personality. Despite the cultural diversity that exists among the African people, there is a far greater degree of cultural unity that exists wherever you find Africans in the, of course, in the world. This is especially obvious in the common African ethos that binds us together as one. Our core values of humanism, collectivism, egalitarianism, for example, are demonstrated amongst the masses everywhere. Even our sense of being, space and time are fundamentally different from other peoples in the world. However, because of our status, because of our status as a dominated people without power to determine our destiny, we are rarely able to have our view of the world expressed, regarded, or respected in any meaningful way by the rest of the world, and especially in any of the various corridors of power. Once Africa unites, however, the rest of the world will have to sit up and take notes. We'll take our seat on the Security Council of the United Nations and be free to express to express to the fullest the most salient characteristics of what Dr. Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah termed the African personality. This is Rodin Mugema, the Afro-pessimist. African young people, the generation Zoomers. Please, thank you so much. I salute you from wherever you are listening from Burkina Faso, from Nigeria, from Cameroon, from that part, Western Africa, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Eastern Africa, and everywhere in all the 55 African states. I salute you. I remain Rodin Mugema, the Afro-pessimist, in the Political Hub Analysis Program. Of course, I'm looking forward to improve on my stories or programs. I would like you to let me know what you have liked, such that we move together. Special thanks also goes to Mr. Roger Sariho. Thank you for listening. Mr. Chivumbi Najib, thank you for listening. All the students at Mutesa the First Year University, Masaka Chirumba Main Campus, and Mutesa, of course, and Chirumba and Kakeka Campus Mengo. Thank you very much. Those students who are in their summer semester, I wish you well as you are going to start your end of summer examinations starting by 30th this very month in July. Of course, the Almighty Lord or God of all creation is great and exceedingly merciful in the knowledge that Africa will unite even if it takes 100 years. God bless you. A very good morning.